The 4th edition of the Overview of the Xi'an Language for Diplomats just launched. It's the document that gives us not only the most lore about the Xi'an, but the entirety of the Xi'an language. As well as almost doubling our vocabulary, there's a good number of little lore insights sprinkled in that tell us more about the Xi'an. So in this video, I'm going to list some of my favourite new tidbits. I'm Jael, and if you enjoy videos about lore, languages and little details, you should subscribe to my channel. Number 1. Canonically Polyamorous. This has been brewing for a while, but I think we can now categorically say that the Xi'an are canonically polyamorous. Xi'an live in Piahai, or bond groups. This is the chosen family group that Xi'an build around themselves and separate from their house or yiwa, which in terms of one's personal private life is more like a nationality or ethnicity. Since their update reveal at CitizenCon 2947, the nature of a Piahai has been implied to be maybe a polyamorous household with members raising children collectively. But now we kind of have a confirmation of it through a new word, Puaith, which can also be pronounced Vaith, and is a loan word from the English faith. This is their translation of the alien concept of monogamy, and also features in their word for a human spouse, Niabiaith, a person who is faithful. This idea of being faithful to a singular other person is an alien concept to the Xi'an, and so the Piahai must be a polyamorous arrangement, and could even maybe be translated as polycule. Number 2. Historical figures. While the majority of the document has remained unchanged, there's some potential history snuck into the new dictionary. We find an entry for Yoa, a historical matriarch of House Gatak who has never been mentioned before. We have a word Rangalo, the merciful and honourable, a formal posthumous honorary title of historical empress Tihase Shou, who has never been mentioned before either. Her reign must fall between the first Shou Emperor Yaha and the last Shou Emperor Eth, likely in the period at the start of the Spirit Wars against the Krithak. Beyond a few names, we have a new word Ethwol, poetically meaning a dark, ignoble shadow, an eternal shame cast by a person of a historic infamy. There's also words relating to people who are banished and forcibly cast out from their line, with the implication that the matriarch who does this becomes something considered a bit like a kinslayer. So it looks like maybe we're gearing up with vocabulary for history that will talk about this previously unexplored period of time, corresponding to the early Middle Ages on Earth, and maybe some political intrigue within House Gatak surrounding someone being banished from the house. That's guesswork, but I don't think those names have been added idly. Number 3. Into the Dark. Xi'an history has so far been split into 3 eras and a before time, demarcated by the rise and fall of their 3 imperial dynasties. The current 3rd era is ruled over by House Krei, and the 1st era, the Rua era, was started when they founded the empire. The 2nd era is interesting because the Xi'an lost the imperial dynasty in an attack by the Krithak, and descended into a centuries-long period of anarchy known as the Dark. So far, this period has always been dated as just part of the 2nd era, but it seems like dates in the Dark might get their own additional or alternative signifier. The new section on era markings, or uo'axy'an, lists the Dark in brackets, implying that it may be treated as a pseudo-era that could count from either the death of the last Shou Emperor or alongside the current 2nd era dates. The Dark also has a new name in Xi'an, Iyang. Speaking of eras, it also seems from the recent Galactopedia update that a new era might be added to define the period of Xi'an civilization prior to the Empire. The date of the invention of the quantum drive was changed from just being the human date 25343 BCE to include modern Xi'an year era 0.5171. That date only really makes sense if you're counting up from a point around 30,000 BCE. This might correspond to the foundation of their original calendar, which was then reset to 0 when they founded the empire, and the only event we have from before that point is the foundation of the Xi'an religion Litova. These 2 points make me think that we're maybe going to get a little bit more about Xi'an calendars and date keeping in the foreseeable future. Number 4. A matter of faith. While there's no overarching theme for all the new words that have been added, I did notice there were quite a few pertaining to the Xi'an religion of Litova and their wider philosophy, particularly how it compares to human philosophy. We have 2 new words for religious. One pertains to adherence to Litova, and it's Yi'ali, which means rigorous about the path, where Li is short for Litova, the path of peace. A religious human, on the other hand, would be uo'axy'an, which means linked to metaphorical storyism. The Xi'ai in that, meaning story, turns up in a couple of other new words like Xi'ai, meaning prophecy or story of the likely future, and Xi'ai for parable, allegory or myth, and literally meaning story beyond truth. Holy book is translated as uo'axy'an, or important sacred book, but this can include important non-religious texts like the Doomsday Book. The word uo'axy'an is a new term meaning literally person of holy experienced, used for a revered historical icon, including those of religious significance. We have a new and funkily spelt word for temple, simply A, but spelled somewhat like a double A. You can compare it to a regular A syllable here. And finally, there's a philosophical concept of uo'axy'an, which means combined past and future, with lots of meanings depending on context, including one's lifetime legacy, the course of all civilization, and as an exclamation for "here we go again" or "history is repeating itself." This all gives us new, small insights into the nature of Litova, how the Xi'an view other religions, and their broader philosophy and how it shapes their worldview. 5. An expanded language. And finally, the breadth of the language now available to us is hugely useful. We've pretty much doubled the number of words we have, and it's both useful for those who enjoy just playing with the language and for CIG's ability to utilise the language in their writing. Like the example of A above, the new additions to the dictionary have a lot of really interesting, unusual spellings, which don't conform to the basic rules for constructing Xi'an characters. This better fulfills a warning from the earliest days of the language when we were told that the Xi'an loved to abbreviate. Moreover, the last few pages of the new guide are given over to talk about how characters are spelled, so you can have a conversation where you literally spell out how to write even irregular spellings. Another area that seems to have got a lot of attention is slang. Words like gluk, meaning cool or hip, kik, meaning help out, kyak, meaning a problem, and kyak-aing, meaning to solve that problem with considerable violence. Ngaum, meaning a strongly pejorative term for dumbass, literally a clogged person. Geek, meaning creepy or freaky. Geek, meaning a highly judgmental, tacky or vulgar. Sek, meaning a smarmy person, a real miserable snake. Wato, meaning here we go. And shak, being a slang version of shale and meaning whoa, awesome. Finally, we have chic and yok, which both mean enraged and out of control, with yok being a more negative and judgmental form of the world. Finally, one of the most significant additions to the language is the word pia, a verb clarifying participle, which means it's from the class of words that includes past, present and future tense words. This new word does convey a sense of time, and specifically it's for events that are imminently about to happen. So it supplements the word chi, which means something that's just happened or is going to happen in the foreseeable future. This is more specific and more immediate. So from this new edition of the document, we have learned a lot of new things about the Xi'an. We've got some hints about lore that might be coming out in the future or feature in Squadron 42, and have a barrel full of new words, including a lot of slang with insults and praise words. I'm really happy to have this surprise drop of what was clearly a huge piece of work, and I'm really grateful for the effort that is continuing to go into the lore and languages of the alien races. Please give this video a like, and let me know in the comments what you found in the new document or any questions that you have about the alien languages. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe, and uo'axy'an che loe sao noa sea.